in property managers that I've spoken to, the ones that are leveraging the buyer's agent relationship the best are those who really make great relationships with their clients who are investors who want to build a portfolio and recommending them to a buyer's advocate to help grow that portfolio. And in return, that buyer's advocate giving the business back to that property manager to look after the properties that they purchase. So that's one avenue. I also have seen time and time again buyers advocates who have multiple buying locations. And because they don't have people on the ground, maybe, they're based in Sydney and they're trying to buy in Queensland, as part of their process, they might ask a property manager to do a rental appraisal and a video walkthrough of that property. And if that client were to buy that property, then the business goes straight to that property manager. So that I understand that's an investment in time, potentially for if the person doesn't buy that particular property, you might not get the business. But if an advocate's asking someone to walk through a property and video it, there's a high chance they're going to buy that property. So that can be a great way to build your rent roll and build ongoing relationships with someone who buys a lot of property in your area.
Welcome to the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, as a property manager, you already know that referrals, industry connections, and expert networks can make all the difference in growing your business. But have you ever considered the value of working with a buyer's agent? Many of you probably already have, but some property managers overlook this partnership. But having a buyer's agent on your panel of experts can help you attract more investors, secure long-term clients, and stand out as a trusted advisor in the industry. In this episode, I'm joined by Emily Wallace, a leading buyer's advocate, podcaster, and business owner behind Wallace Advocates. Emily specialises in helping home buyers and investors navigate the property market with confidence, ensuring they find the right property for their needs. With her deep knowledge of market trends, negotiation, and strategic property acquisition, Emily brings a fresh perspective on how property managers can leverage relationships with buyers' agents to grow their business. We also dive into the crucial role buyers' agents play in the property management ecosystem and how they can help investors find high-quality rental properties, making your job as a property manager much easier. Emily explains why investors trust buyers' agents to guide them towards properties with strong rental potential and how you, as a property manager, can position yourself as the natural next step in that journey. We also take a look at the power of referral relationships and how aligning yourself with the right professionals can open doors to new business opportunities. When you build strong connections with trusted industry experts, you create a network that consistently sends business your way, helping you grow without constantly chasing new clients. Another important topic that we touch on is what investors are looking for in a property manager. Emily shares her insights into the biggest concerns and priorities of investors when choosing a property manager so that you can be their top choice. By understanding their mindset, you can tailor your services to meet their needs, stand out in a competitive market, and build long-term, profitable relationships. Lastly, we talk about personal branding and why standing out in today's real estate industry is more important than ever. Emily shares her experience in building a strong personal brand and how it has helped her business grow. She provides practical tips for property managers on how to establish credibility, attract the right clients, and create a professional presence that commands attention. So if you're looking for ways to strengthen your professional network, attract more investors, and enhance your business, this episode is packed with insights that will help you take the next step. So let's dive on in. Emily, thank you so much for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. Before we dive in, can you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Certainly. So I'm a Melbourne-based buyer's advocate specialising in home ownership. So we only buy properties that people live in or intend to live in. Actually, we sometimes get people who buy an investment and then flip it to their own home. And basically, we are holding the hand of the buyer throughout the property transaction to secure their next property.
Amazing. And how have you found that in the market at the moment? How is the buyer's advocacy working right now? What's sort of happening, or what hotspots? Where are people buying? Give us a little bit of an update on that.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of first home buyers entering the market at the moment because, well, A, it's a big goal for a lot of people, but B, it can be challenging in the rental market for some people. In some areas, they've been priced out. And it actually makes more sense for them to take on a mortgage. So we're seeing a lot of that. In terms of hotspots, particularly Melbourne based, we're seeing a lot of inner city purchases, a lot of apartment buying, to be honest. And I guess, given the demographic of your podcast and who might be listening in, it has been a lot of investors selling out, selling to home buyers. But even though I don't buy investment properties, I've certainly heard of investors buying in Melbourne as well. Some people are seeing this sort of dip as a good opportunistic time to get into the market. So there's a bit of everything, but I must say, witnessing a lot more first home buyers, potentially with the help of mum and dad or bank of mum and dad, coming into the market has been quite a common occurrence.
Amazing. Now, for maybe somebody who's listening who has heard of buyer's agents but doesn't really understand the job that you guys do, can you just give us a beginner's overview of what a buyer's agent does and how you help in the real estate cycle?
Yeah, certainly. It's a great question, and it shouldn't be assumed that people know because it is a growing industry. And I get that people are like, what do? You sell properties. And it's like, no, we don't sell, we buy. So if you think about it, we're the reverse of a real estate agent. The real estate agent is engaged and paid by the vendor to sell their property for the highest price possible. A buyer's advocate is engaged by the buyer and paid by the buyer to go out and find the right property for them. A lot of people go, oh, well, you like the people on the block, bidding on the show the block. A little bit like that, but a lot of our value lies in the fact that we speak with real estate agents regularly and we actually get off-market properties for our clients. So they're getting properties that they wouldn't get if they were going alone. And that's our real value add, is getting more choice in the market for them, advising them which property to purchase and valuing that property so they don't overpay for it. A lot of the time when we're bidding at auction, it's actually our helping point there is actually to stop bidding and stop our client from going further. But yeah, effectively it's an end-to-end service helping a buyer to buy the best possible property. We work hand in hand with agents, but we have a different role to what a real estate agent has.
Fantastic. Now, I have worked with quite a number of buyer's agents through my own real estate business
Yep.
and property management business. So let's dive into talking about how, and the topic of today's episode, how can property managers, or what is the value of property managers having a buyer's advocate as part of their panel of experts, and how can it help them win more business?
Look, I think it's a great tool and a great relationship to leverage. As I mentioned, obviously we're buying homes, but actually we have had situations where we were referred to a property manager because there is a property that needs to be rented out for a period of time. And in property managers that I've spoken to, the ones that are leveraging the buyer's agent relationship the best are those who really make great relationships with their clients who are investors who want to build a portfolio, and recommending them to a buyer's advocate to help grow that portfolio, and in return that buyer's advocate giving the business back to that property manager to look after the properties that they purchase. So that's one avenue. I also have seen time and time again buyers advocates who have multiple buying locations. And because they don't have people on the ground, maybe, they're based in Sydney and they're trying to buy in Queensland, as part of their process, they might ask a property manager to do a rental appraisal and a video walkthrough of that property. And if that client were to buy that property, then the business goes straight to that property manager. So that, I understand that's an investment in time, potentially, for if the person doesn't buy that particular property, you might not get the business. But if an advocate's asking someone to walk through a property and video it, there's a high chance they're going to buy that property. So that can be a great way to build your rent roll and build ongoing relationships with someone who buys a lot of property in your area.
I'm sure that a lot of people's ears are probably pricking at what you've just said there. But what is the best way for somebody to approach a buyer's agent and get them to work in sort of that referral relationship? Because I actually think that if a buyer's agent is referring you a client, there's a lot of trust that the buyer's agent has built with that client. So if you're getting that referral, that's goes a long way, I think, to you securing that particular client as a long-term client. But yeah, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how and build those relationships, what's the best way?
I think the biggest thing, particularly for reaching out to a buyer's advocate who does do investment, like strictly investment, your area knowledge and your understanding of the rental market in the area is of absolute value to that buyer's advocate and can bring them up to speed a lot faster than them doing their own research. So it's knowledge that you possess just by being in the area that you're in and servicing the area that you look after. I would maybe take it from approach of, hey, look, I noticed that you're active in this area at the moment. I have a really good handle on this suburb. I've been working here for X amount of years, and I actually have tenants who missed out on one of our recent properties that are looking for something to go into. Are you planning on purchasing for anybody in the area? Could I, potentially introduce you to some tenants and look after that property for you? Those sorts of things of making their life easier to win business can be really good, but also understanding where they're buying, the types of properties they're buying, and making sure it's business that you want to take on as well. Like sometimes I've heard of clients that have really high expectations of property managers and actually it's not good business. But I think aligning yourself with a business who has similar values to you is really important.
Amazing. So if a property manager was going to reach out to you, are there things like you just mentioned before, doing video walkthroughs or giving them an overview of the local market? Is having those types of tools or presenting an offer, I guess, to a buyer's agent, would that be of value?
Yeah, definitely. If you're willing to put a little bit of time in up front to potentially get a really big reward in terms of the fact that a lot of buyers agents don't have in-house property management. It's too much for them to look after and they outsource to local property managers. So if you're willing to invest some time to potentially do a video walkthrough for them, give them some resources and some intel about the rental market in the area that they're buying in, that would go a long way to then be the trusted advisor in that postcode that they're buying in and effectively funneling more clients to you. You will find the investment agencies that buy a lot of properties will buy a handful at a time in a certain area. So if you win one, you might win a following 5 or 6 quite quickly, and that could be great for the value of your rent roll ongoing as well.
And what about dealing with a buyer's agent, say, like you mentioned again earlier, a buyer's agent in Sydney wants to buy property in Queensland? Where would you go to find those buyer's agents, or how would you source out those buyer's agents that, I know that this is $1 million question, but where would you find buyer's agents, assuming places like LinkedIn, which is how I've found buyer's agents in the past. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn, even just a Google search of like nationwide property advocate, something like that, or investment advocate. A lot of the ones who do have big companies and buy all across Australia do actually have podcasts as well. It's another good resource to listen to where they're buying. And maybe they're mentioned in the media as well for what they're buying and where they're buying. But almost treat it as if you're going to be a client of theirs, like an investor, like you're researching who would I use and where would I buy. Yeah, I would, because they can be based in one state and buying in another. The term national property advocate is probably a really good one to be searching to make sure they're buying all over the nation, really. Yeah.
And tell me, this is just out of my own curiosity.
Yeah.
As the real estate market shifts and changes, we all know it does, and it goes in these cycles. Do you think there's always a market for buyer's agents, or do you think, and maybe give me a bit of a backstory of how buyer's agents became a thing?
Is before my time, but I'm taking a wild guess here. Look, I think gone are the days. So, like, my impression of like quote unquote old school real estate was when a real estate agent picked up a buyer, they took them in their nice fancy car, they drove them around to 5 different properties. And there was a time, because I actually spoke to an agent here in Melbourne who's been in the game a long time, and he said every Friday afternoon they used to go down to the pub and there was all different agents from agencies and they would exchange the addresses with buyers. So they were actually friendly and not, competitive against each other. They were actually sharing buyers and sharing stock amongst each other to get deals done. Then it must have hit a tipping point of too many real estate agents, not enough stock, and it became really competitive. So I believe at that sort of same time, there was born the idea of having a buyer's advocate who works for the buyer independently and can buy stock from any agent because they're paid by the buyer. So the commissions, regardless, they just need to buy a property. It doesn't matter where it's from. So I believe that's how it came about. And look, still to this day, there are agents who will, take buyers around and show them properties, but they can only show them and sell them their stock because that's how they get paid. A Ray White agent can't sell a Buxton listing and profit from it. It just doesn't happen. It's just not the way it works. So having a buyer's advocate is a solution to make sure the buyer gets the best possible chance of finding a property across all agencies. And I believe that's how it came about. It's still a growing industry. I reckon it's less than, 20 years old, to be honest, and growing. So it's exciting times.
Are you feeling overwhelmed and thinking about selling your rent roll? Don't worry, you're not alone, and HDNU is here to help. Whether you're ready to sell now or you just want to plan for the future, the friendly and approachable team at HDNU makes the process simple and stress-free. Hello, yes please. With over 30 years of expertise, they're not just about crunching the numbers. They genuinely care about helping you maximise your agency's value and get the best outcome for you. Their sales readiness bundle is like having a trusted advisor by your side. They'll work closely with you to assess your agency's key factors, create an easy to understand heat map of your strengths and opportunities, and then sit down with you for a 90-minute workshop to guide you on what to do next. They'll look at everything from rent roll earnings and rent arrears to compliance and team performance and explain it all in plain English. If you're planning to sell soon, HDNU can even handle the whole process for you, from finding qualified buyers to negotiating the deal. Their friendly, professional team takes the stress out of selling so you can feel confident every step of the way. And to get started, simply book in a meeting with the team today. Their link is in the show notes. They're here to help you move forward with confidence. If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up, because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative prop tech scale up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO. It is exciting times, and I think, having opportunities to help everybody in that buyers and selling cycle works really well. But I was just curious to see, if there's, I guess less stock, is there still opportunities for buyers agents? I know when there's more stock, there's definitely opportunities for buyers agents. People get busy, they don't want to have to go and, spend their Saturdays driving around to open homes. So having someone to do that for you can see the value in that.
Yeah, I think that exists regardless of the type of market, whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market, because when it is a buyer's market, the buyer doesn't want to overpay. They'd be like, I know I've got a chance to negotiate here. I'm woeful at negotiating. Can you handle it for me? When it's a seller's market, it's like, hey, I don't want to miss the boat. How can I buy quickly without being rushed? And I need you, on the ground while I'm working Monday to Friday. I need you out there inspecting properties for me and qualifying, so I'm ready to make a move come the Saturday when I walk through it for the first time. Everything's already ready to go. So I think the need for outsourcing to a service exists regardless of the market, but maybe there's ebbs and flows depending on people's impression of the market, or if they could do it themselves better than an advocate, if they think they have the time to build the knowledge and the time to invest in the property search. But everyone's so life only gets busier by the sound. Like the older I get, the busier everyone seems to be. So I think outsourcing can be a great solution.
And the quicker the weeks are flying by, like I cannot believe it's Wednesday again already.
I know.
I blinked and it was Sunday and now it's Wednesday. So I guess if you were, and I know you don't necessarily deal with investors, but if you were all of a sudden got a lot of investor clients on and you were looking for a referral relationship with a property manager,
Yes.
what would you be looking for in that property management company?
Look, I can speak to this from an advocate point of view. I can also speak to it from the fact that I am an investor and I have three properties that are managed by property managers. And the thing that I look for in property management are their systems and processes. Now, I know that comes from the fact that I'm a business owner and I understand it probably more than the everyday person, but how is communication handled? What's the back end like? Can the owner log in and see quickly their ledgers and, their statements and everything? Or do they have to manually email and ask for it? Like, what's the user experience like for a time poor investor when they need to see things quickly? But then also on the other end, how is the tenant being treated and looked after? How quickly from when they complain about something do I hear about it as an owner? And I think that's really important because there's a lot of rent investors out there now, people who are renting and also investing. And so we sort of have these empathetic owners who actually understand both sides of the fence. And I think understanding a property management business and how they handle communication above all else and the systems and processes that back that would be form quite a large part of who I would decide to go with. And I've had experiences. I've got one property that's up in North Queensland, and there was hardly any property management companies to choose from, to be honest with you. But the one that I'm with, that I won't name it, but it is very old school and it frustrates me so much. It's like you have to manually ask for things. I'm like, surely you could just implement like property.me or whatever it is that, is the right system for property management to make life a lot easier, because the consumer expects that now. And if you're not using tech, you're going to be falling behind.
There is still a lot of dinosaurs out there. You would be surprised how many companies out there. I don't think anyone still manually does inspection reports and stuff like that, but up until probably 2 years ago, they were probably.
Yeah.
And I just want to touch on a point that you made around the tenant relationship as well, because that's always been really important to me. I see, of course, the property owners, the investors are your client, and that's where we're making our income from. But without good tenants and good relationships with your tenants, you're not making that income. It becomes a nightmare. It creates more stress in your business. So you're absolutely right. It's really important to treat tenants with that empathy, with that respect, communicate, have a communication plan with them as well. And I've always been a huge advocate of transparency in every aspect of our business. So, and all of our software and tech tools out there now allow us to give our clients the ultimate in transparency. When you're transparent, it builds trust, because there's nowhere to hide things. You can't hide statements. You can't hide inspection reports. You have to do your job properly. So I'm loving that change in our industry. And I think for me, again, touching on that point that you said, if I was looking for a property manager these days, I would be definitely looking for one that has the most transparency over all their processes, systems. So yeah, so that was good. I'm glad that you touched on that.
Yeah, it's very important, I think. And like I said, I think consumers expect it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no excuses for it now. There's so much. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming, the amount of tech and software tools that you can use to move forward with all that. Now, you've got a podcast as well,
Yes.
and you're a podcaster. So maybe share with our audience a little bit about that. And yeah, and I've also stalked you on social media. Stalking is the wrong word, but I've researched you. That's a better word. Researched you, yeah. And I can see that you create amazing content around, a lot of educational content as well. So maybe, and I guess, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I think it all relates. How have you used your personal brand to build your business brand?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a really big thing, and I didn't realize how big it could get in terms of the opportunities that come from building a personal brand. It's been really important to build a business because now I'm focused on building a brand around the business and that sort of understanding of team. But even to get to that point, for anyone who's out there, thinking about getting into business, or maybe their early days into their property management business, like how do I get off the ground? Helpful content, like anytime someone asks you a question, that is a video in my mind. So when people are like, I don't know what to post, I don't know, what to do, spend a week and just take a notepad with you. And every time someone asks you a question related to your role, write it down and then answer it in the format of a video, because I can guarantee you repeat yourself so often with the same questions, whether it's from tenants or owners or just the industry. And that is content. And building that up and becoming an expert in your field is really important. I went to a seminar thing once, and someone said to me, wouldn't you be so annoyed if someone less skilled than you got more attention than you just because they were posting videos? So that was my whole thing of like, I don't want someone who's actually worse at the job than I am getting all the business when I know I could deliver better. And so, yeah, basically I posted and I didn't stop posting and I still post, which did result in I was a guest on a podcast 5 years ago now called This Is Property. And I then became a resident co-host for the past 5 years. And that's been an awesome avenue for the industry, for clients, for just, property knowledge. And then more recently, I've started the Real Estate Circle, which is more industry related sales, advocacy, property management as well. Actually, we'd love to get a property manager on the show to more, I guess, better the industry, which has also helped with on a number of fronts as well for exposure.
That's amazing. And you're right, it is a holistic community. It is like the circle of real estate. It all goes around. And I think, understanding every aspect of it as well only builds your own expertise as well. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I love personal development. Can you share a tool, resource, book, a podcast that you think would help our listeners?
For sure. The one person I always come back to whenever I'm like, oh, I'm a bit stuck or a bit, what do I do next, is Alex Hormozy. If anyone is listening and is into marketing and getting more leads into the business and showing up in business, you can't miss him online. He posts I think he said it's like 450 pieces of content a month. So, that's crazy figures.
It is. I love him. Yeah, I just listened to a podcast. He was on the weekend, The Diary of a CEO. He's on that podcast.
Get to listen to that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that would be an amazing episode. Two amazing people in one room. That would be
exactly.
That would be a great listen. Yeah, but he is, whenever I'm like, feeling a bit stuck, I'm like, right, just let's go put one of his on and listen to him. I think he's a great operator. I think he understands marketing better than anybody. And if anyone was feeling like they, needed a bit of motivation for business, that's who I would personally turn to.
Yeah. And, he is a great motivation because he actually started out like bankrupt. He bankrupted himself and left what he thought he was supposed to do. His family were telling him, he had to go, be a business person and go to college. And he just realized that it wasn't for him. And he went and started working in a gym and then grew his empire. I can't remember what the numbers are, but he's like multi-billion dollars now that he earns.
He's that point where even if you wanted to work with him, you can't pay him anymore. He's so unreachable because you actually have to apply to have him consult to your business and you have to show your financials, and he's, he's gotten to a point where he can be super selective. But I wish I'd known him before he got big.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. And his book, $100 Million Offers. Have you read that one?
I've read that one and $100 Million Leads as well. And he's got so many free resources that, you can just consume them and change a whole business very quickly. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And we don't have to do all this on our own. There are so many people who've done this before us, but it's about opening up and being open to, learning and growing and taking on this knowledge. So thank you so much for sharing that. How can our audience connect with you further, ask questions, get you as one of their experts on their panel of buyer's agents?
Yeah, definitely. So Wallace Advocates is the business. And in terms of reaching out to me personally, I'm always on my Instagram or TikTok or any of those things. But the wallaceadvocates.com.au will have all the links for contact.
Amazing. And I'll share the links to your podcast in the show notes as well. And if anyone wants to pitch you on the podcast, they can do it through one of those links.
Yeah, perfect. Yep, that sounds good.
Amazing. Emily, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.